how he mentioned citizen action. Interesting, because I was a volunteer with Citizen Action for about maybe 10 years, doing a lot of volunteer work on healthcare reform. I was there when the Clintons were in the White House and no, yes, we're going to have healthcare reform, demonstrating down in Washington, D.C., doing lobbying and so on. Hung in there, going to conferences all over until this year when I saw the tide change and I started hearing this word public option. And I thought, what happened to single payer? And it was public option, public option. And I thought, so I wrote a letter to Mary Clark and said, I can't do this anymore. I'm very sorry. After so many years with you, you have decided, you have thrown out single payer, and I quit as a volunteer. And I can't have anything to do with your organization anymore. And it's very, very sad. So I got into the hyrdrofracking issue because of health issue, because of the health focus, the problems with health that it will bring, and has brought to places across the country. For some reason, I don't know, because this is such a huge topic, there are so many variables involved in it, I started focusing on diesel exhaust. And I know nothing about trucks, but I was focused on diesel exhaust because my father, probably because my father died of a heart attack. And I found out that diesel exhaust has nanoparticles which can cross the blood-brain barrier and cause cardiovascular disease and stroke. And I had no idea about this before. When we have trucks going to these drilling pads 24/7, not only will it cause asthma, but it will also cause these other diseases. And we haven't even started on the water issues, which many of you already know. So I won't spend too much time on that. But as Howie was talking about the EPA study. The EPA study is going to focus only on water. And we are already having the possibility of the hydrofracking process polluting water. We are already having indications that this EPA study is going to be a lame study because they can't even get organized as to how to register us for the hearings in Binghamton. It is already screwed up. Just registering us, much less actually doing this study. So I'm totally with what he just said. This is not looking good at all right from now. So don't depend on them, on anything that they're going to be saying. To hear that schools in Pennsylvania are accepting leases for drilling right next to schools, I think is outrageous because not only am I concerned about health, I'm also concerned about education. I'm a strong supporter of the SUNY system. I graduated from 3 of the centers, Albany, Buffalo, and Binghamton, and it really is really heartbreaking to hear of students who have to work 2 and 3 jobs, just undergraduates, just to be able to stay in school. I have taught students who were in that situation where they couldn't take a particular class, or they were coming in late, or they were leaving early because they had to rush off to go and work. Other countries are shocked that that this supposedly the greatest country in the world, we don't pay for the tuition for our students to go to, at least to undergraduate. Are we not interested in having an educated citizenry? Apparently not. Other countries apparently care more about having an educated citizenry. So, if and when I take the seat that Kirsten Gillibrand is currently sitting in, one of the first things that I will try to push the other people in the Senate to become convinced about is the need for having free tuition across the country, free undergraduate tuition across the country. I'm going to say, where is this money going to come from? Well, Howie already set out clearly that the money is already there. It's just that it's misallocated. And this is not just a progressive liberal thing. I heard David K. Johnston speak when I was teaching at RIT this past winter quarter and spring quarter. He is an avowed Republican, a Pulitzer Prize winner who is currently now adjunct at Syracuse University Law School. And he made it clear, very clear, that he's a Republican. And in his most recent book, which is called Free Lunch, he pointed out the income disparity and how corporations right now are not really competing competing in a way which we think that capitalism works. So, for example, Walmart just down the road here. And he gives examples of many, many other kinds of corporations. They come in and they get tax breaks and so on, with the result. The end result is that, where does their profit come from? Not from the sales, but from our taxes. Their profit comes from our taxes because they got tax breaks and the way the low wages that they pay their employees. And this he set out very clearly with a lot of documentation how this goes on from corporation to corporation. I'm also very interested in the issue of our food. As I said before, that my focus is, the main part of my platform is on health, very broadly speaking. That's why I got into the fracking issue. I'm also interested in the health of our food. This is why I'm terrified at the prospect of upstate New York becoming an industrial zone, because we have some beautiful farms, some beautiful niche farms like the Side Hill Acres Goat Dairy Farm, one of my favorite places. You can't find better raw goat milk cheese than there. I have yet to taste it. I took it down to New York City to my sister to compare with stuff that you can get from everywhere else. And it's wonderful. I would hate to see that destroyed, and we absolutely have to fight to see that it does not get destroyed. So working along, and also with CAFOs, concentrated animal feeding operations. I am, their cesspools, their pits are similar to what we can see with the fracking pits. They can cause just as much trouble. For those of us who have graduated from democracy school, we know that the name of democracy school, the Daniel Pennock Democracy School, is named after a teenager who was of a farm family who died from the fumes of waste being spread on farm fields. And the food, if you don't buy organic food, there is a possibility that the food that you're eating comes from farms that have been spread with this kind of stuff that they call fertilizer, which really isn't naturally made fertilizer. So I'm very concerned about the food that we're eating, that we drink clean water. There was a series recently in the New York Times about water problems all across the nation. So we need a whole revamping. There was an email recently, I think this day or today or yesterday, where one of the people on the listserv had just been to France. And she reported that people with whom she spoke there were aghast and wondering if the United States, if people in the United States had lost their minds collectively, because we seem so uncaring about our environment, not just what's going on in the Gulf, but in general. We need to turn that around, and we need to say we're not crazy, hopefully, that it's possible for us to see another way we can do this, and to live sustainably, and to conserve the best we can, to have light rail, to have, and I know Casey is one of those who's an aficionado of light rail and high-speed rail. Instead of my driving from Appalachian to here, wouldn't it have been lovely just to take a light rail and come right into here and not have to be polluting the air? This is a flat roof building. The opportunities are there. So yes, we have all of these downers about the pollution in the water, the pollution in the air, the pollution of our food. But there's so many opportunities. Look, this is a flat roof building. It could have solar panels on it right now. Why isn't that so? Why? Because the political will isn't there. If we were subsidizing solar, small-scale wind, ground source heat pumps, which my sister educated me about, that you can have one in your backyard, and small-scale wind, that we could take care of the energy needs of the entire New York State just on solar alone. Remove the subsidies from oil, gas, nuclear, the tax money. Conserving, and of course bring the troops home. Yeah. That great sucking sound that you hear of our tax monies going across to Afghanistan and Iran, that needs to be turned around, and that money stays here instead of being used to fund a pointless war with people being killed by drones, being manufactured in Syracuse, therefore creating people who hate us even more than they hate us already as a people and as a country. So I hope you will do your best to get out there, get those petitions, and get more people to join in on this, and to get the amount of votes that for Howie that we need, more than, twice than, 3 times, 5 times the amount of votes that we need in order to get the Green Party on the ballot, so that we can have good candidates who are for the people and not for the corporation actually in office. Thank you.